Good evening and welcome to the Dracut Connection. Today is January 23rd, Thursday evening. We're coming to you live from DATV Studios. I'm Brian Bond. I'll be your lead co-host for this evening. And I'm joined by, to my left, my other co-host, George Bogue. And we've got a couple special guests in the studio tonight. We've got former co-host and former co-host of Inside Dracut Politics, Mr. Bill Morin. And to my right, we have a former moderator of Dracut After Dark in Kepasa, which was a Dracut cable TV show. Frank Zaberik, right? I always pronounce that wrong. I get
That's
it.
fine.
I get it, and I don't get it. Tonight, as you folks probably know, recently Roger Daigle had passed away, and Roger was a great guy for the Dracut community, a watchdog, a former select one, and an icon. And we're going to chat about him, but we're going to tell you some really interesting stories, I'm hoping, right? You guys know him well, and it's more of a, we're going to talk about all the good things about Roger and the positive things that he brought to Dracut. But before we do that, we do have Sean Kelly, broadcast. He's a weather broadcaster here at DATV Studios, and we're going to switch to the Roger Daigle studio, and where Sean is right now. We're going to go live. He's going to give us a little bit of a weather report, and then we'll come back and we'll chat about Roger. So, Ron, can you bring up the studio? Hey, Sean, how are you?
Doing good.
Welcome to the show. We had Sean on last week. Mm-hmm. So, what do we got out there? What's going on?
Yeah, so this is the forecast for tonight. So thanks for having me on again this week. This is for tonight again. 24 degrees is what we're going to drop to tonight. Not that much, if anything. Heading into your Friday, though, it's going to be just like today. A little bit more sunshine for tomorrow. High of 42 degrees. Winds 5 to 10 miles an hour, so not much of anything. Friday night, though, we're going to drop down to 33 degrees, staying cloudy. Heading into your Saturday, this is going to be the day everybody's watching this weekend, of course, right? 42 degrees, so I think we're going to have some mixing going on, but mostly rain. And that's going to be the trend as you head into your early Sunday. So heading into your Saturday night, of course, 39 degrees we're going to drop down to, maybe some sleet, maybe some mixing going on. And I think that's going to be more towards the higher elevations, of course, and it's going into parts of southern New Hampshire, of course. So again, probably not, if anything, for some snow, of course. We might have to drop that down to not happening, of course. And for your snowfall accumulations, I think ski country, of course, a great weekend for them, and another great one. 6 to 12 inches of snow is possible for the higher elevations, and of course, parts of southern New Hampshire, 3 to 6, and 1 to 3, maybe just west of Nashua, maybe into Londonderry, maybe some mixing going on there. And the 70 forecast, of course, there's a weekend we're watching, 42 degrees for higher on Saturday, and I think maybe 44 degrees for your Sunday. That's another day we're watching. A little bit closer look for your Saturday, though. There it is. Here's your mostly rain for us, and just west of Nashua, you would say, maybe some snow and mix going on. So that's what we have for right now. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you. We appreciate that, Sean. Sean's going to come in. He's going to do our little intermission whenever we run our show. We're really looking forward to it, and we appreciate that, Sean.
Thank you.
We'll be chatting again. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So back to the Dracut Connection. And a little bit of chat about Roger Daigle. Let's start with Frank. What's your background with Roger? What do you know about Roger that you can tell the folks?
I was watching the local cable TV station about 1997 or so, and I saw Inside Dracut Politics with Bill and Roger. And I was, fascinating what was going on in town. And I know at that point you were, bringing up a lot of stuff, especially with the water district at that time. And the claims of saying that Dracut had the lowest water rates in the state every time a commissioner or a clerk ran for a re-election and stuff like that. And it was fascinating. I think I got in touch with you somehow, called you or something like that. And one thing led to another, and I started making appearances on Inside Dracut Politics as like a guest type situation.
Did you start your internet blog at that point? Or was it before then?
Oh, no, and after that.
It was after that?
That was after that, yeah.
Right, but that's what Roger got you into the politics, and Bill was on that show. I think Bill started the show.
Yeah, I and Roger actually started it together. Not totally together. We had Bill Pappas too.
Yeah.
Bill Pappas was also a major player. I left those two guys, years later. But yeah, Roger and I went back, I'm going to have to say 1992-ish or 93-ish when he hooked up with me, give or take a couple years. And Roger ended up calling me on the phone one night. "You Mr. Morin?" "Yeah." "My name is Roger Daigle." You know how Roger,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
right? "Yes, can I help you?" "I'd like you to come to my house." And I went to his house and we chatted. And then he liked what I was doing, and he also helped me out with Veterans Memorial Park. Remember Veterans Memorial Park? There was a big controversy on that. And the reason why him and Billy Pappas were involved in that also, we were going to pay for that piece of land that was basically a lot of water, a lot of swales, a lot of a lot of water problems over there. And they,
So-
go ahead.
So Roger was a selectman for one term, was it?
One term, yes.
I thought it was
No,
2 terms.
one term.
One
Oh,
term.
one term.
But he was really a watchdog of the community and
But,
how.
before that, he was on finance committee. He was involved in the town since when he
Right.
moved into the
And
town and lived into
Yeah.
the town.
If you were involved with Dracut politics in any way, whatever board you sat on, I think most folks went to his house and sat down and had conversations with him. I know Roger would call me all the time, and being so busy with different businesses and things going on, if you didn't call him back, he would call you again, and he would ream you out for not calling him back in time. And if he didn't like something you were doing, even if he was friendly with you,
Oh, no,
he would yell at you.
Yeah.
Oh, he wouldn't really yell. You'd have to know Roger.
Yeah, right, but he
his
would-
yelling
yeah.
was not my yelling because I was brought up in kind of the same household he was. Well, my family is loud when they speak, especially when they're not agreeing with you, right? And Roger, normal, French
But he didn't
house.
get mad at you.
No, not
he
mad.
Just didn't
No,
like the
no.
direction that you were going. Like if I favored this project or that project, what are you doing?
But then you had to know how to handle that too.
Oh, yeah.
Because the way you handle that is not agree with him all the time. You better have an argument to fight with, so he goes to your side. And if you can't do that, forget it. You know what I mean? His model was, show me, don't tell me. You know what I mean? That was basically his attitude. And if he has an issue with you, he would address it. And sometimes you say, yep, now I understand why you went that way or why you voted that way. I didn't know the whole thing. And he was reasonable that way. But if you messed up and you said, and he'd shake his head, you don't do it that way. This is how you do it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But Roger, like I said, I've known him for many, many years. We worked together for many, many years. And also with Billy Pappas, with many years. And those guys I'm going to miss. I miss Bill Pappas, and I'm going to miss Roger.
Yeah.
So Frank, now Roger used on your internet blog, Dracut After Dark. Roger would get messages for you to post over there.
Yeah, well, he was having trouble with Jim Campanini. Campanini wouldn't run his letters to the editor for whatever reason, and which was wrong. I mean, it wasn't like he was swearing in his letters to the editor or anything like that. They weren't slanderous, and they should have published them.
They did for a little bit, but then they stopped.
Yeah.
I recall some letters, but once your site, once that site kind of, where Facebook kind of really kind of grew and took over that site and that you closed down that site. But recently, Roger's been getting me letters on thumb drives to post on my Dracut Connection Facebook page. So, he loved to get his message out there. He always wanted the people to know what he was thinking and why he was thinking it. And he was concerned about the tax dollar.
Yeah.
The amount of money that we were spending on things were.
Very conservative. Roger is probably one of the most conservative people I know. And he's good at what he does. He's a great guy. And he also has a great family. The girls are fantastic.
Yeah. And people respect Roger in town.
Absolutely.
One day I was there, and just previous to me getting there, Kathy Graham was there, and Ann Vandal was there, and another woman, I forget the other person's name, but they had just gone to Roger's house to see him which I thought was awesome. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That,
yeah.
and they would get him the
They-
different reports and different things that he wanted. So, I mean,
You know,
well respected.
I mentioned that to Roger recently. So what do you think of Town Hall? The employees over there. He said, Billy, those were the greatest and nicest people that I know. In Town Hall. He's going, the politicians, I forget them, but the employees over
Right.
there are fantastic. They were always nice, very nice to me. And he goes, I like them a lot over there. Those were some of the conversations I had with him. And that's the way he was, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't lie to him, you're not going to have a problem with him. Seriously, and he doesn't like to hear the BS. He wants to hear the facts right off the bat. Don't try to, give me any crap.
One
on it.
thing, I emailed you, I guess earlier, was it last week? And we're talking about, possible things we could talk about on the thing, and saying, like, what kind of write-up would the Lowell Sun give? Like an appreciation type thing for Roger. And that lady who wrote that Legends book, Rebecca
Duda.
Rebecca Duda. I maybe it was just me, but it sounded like first of all, she said that he was her friend. Roger became her friend. But it sounded like, too, on that Legends book, maybe Roger should have been a part of that book.
I heard that from a lot of folks. I don't know if you heard the same, but I heard that Roger should have definitely been in one of
agree.
those people because he was a legend in town. But I think, Roger wasn't afraid to butt heads, right?
Yeah.
And,
No,
and,
he
you've
wasn't.
and he called a spade, and some folks that didn't want to be called a spade didn't enjoy that. And
Yeah.
so, and Roger stood his ground, and I think, that kind of is one of the reasons he didn't get in that book, because of people were afraid of retribution.
I'll tell you right now, Roger never took anything, too, from the town. Never, ever. All he ever did was think of the town and care for the town he loved. He really loved the town.
Yeah.
And he loves his family. And loved his family. And that's what he lived for. The family and politics.
Incredible. Well, one thing that Rebecca did mention her that feature about he mentioned like how Roger had to take care of his wife,
That's
feed
right.
him and stuff like
For
that.
years.
That
When she
was-
was diagnosed, I'll tell you, I was there on some of those days. And
There's a
I
picture
don't-
of Roger and his wife in his younger days.
yes, that was quite a few years
Wow.
ago. I don't
Yeah.
recall the exact time, but yes, that's.
He had to have loved his wife.
He loved her, adored her. He really did.
Because a lot of people in that same situation would have put their relative in a nursing home and let the nurses.
I know of people who've done that. That man would not do that.
Yeah.
And he-
And also, I mean, when I met him, he was in his 80s and he was taking care of his wife. Yeah,
Yes.
It's one thing to take care of your wife when you're younger, but I mean, he was in his 80s. I mean,
He was in
sharp.
his 80s,
He
you
was
know.
in as sharp as a tack, and he'd still be
He would not
he'd still
forget.
be out fixing stuff in the yard and this and that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was the thing that impressed me was just like like you say, a lot of people, they'd like to take care of their wife, but they can't, and just the effort it takes at that, just when you're young and healthy to do it, but when you're in your 80s to be doing that, it's just incredible.
I know.
You know when his kids were growing up, right? He took them on vacation. They always went out on vacations, right? He's been to places I've never seen and I will never see. And his kids have been to places with them that I will probably never see. That's how much he was loyal to his children and his wife.
Unbelievable. And all his daughters are college educated. They all have professional jobs.
Oh, did you know one of them made it on Jeopardy?
Yes.
That was Drew. And unbelievable. I
Brilliant.
got most of the genes from the mother.
Ah,
And some from Roger.
yeah.
Well, like I said, Roger was sharp as
yeah.
a tack. and
So
you go-
wasn't his wife. His
you-
wife was very sharp too.
You go in there and he'd just have, like the piles of notepads just like all written.
Oh,
like-
I know. I've seen the piles.
And if you asked him a question, he just grabbed that
Grabbed
pile
pi-
and he'd
and-
shift
and
through
he
it,
had
and
no
he had
way-
the
and
boom.
he had it for
He'd
you.
had all
Yeah,
that stuff. I mean, tons and tons and tons of
It is
material.
it's a walk-in library.
And, you know,
if it was to be
Well, as a profession, he was like in insurance
finance.
manager.
No,
Oh, finance.
He was in finance.
I thought he worked for an insurance
No.
company doing something.
No. Works for finance. He was
Okay.
in finance.
And he got his business degree from what, BC or BU?
I believe it was BU. I could be mistaken.
Boston University?
Yes.
Okay. And he was a Navy veteran.
Yes,
I
he
don't know what
was.
he did in the Navy, but
He
still.
was in the Navy. He worked in a law, I think, like the law office of the Navy or something.
Oh,
It
JAG
was,
office?
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's my
on a ship in
understanding-
California, when it was in California during World War II.
Wow.
It's my understanding that his daughter lives right behind him.
Yes,
and
that's
he built
true.
his daughter's house.
He built two houses.
He built his house and then he
houses
built
and
his
another
daughter's.
Built
daughter's
another
house.
daughter's
Yeah, yeah.
house, yes.
So,
Incredible.
Yes.
yeah. You know,
I'm
so he's a
telling you, the
handy
guy
man.
was, I don't know, kind of, you don't know, I don't know anyone that was like him. And I hope I'm 1,000th of what the character that man had. He was
Yeah.
just great. And his kids are the same way too.
So let's.
Very, very
Do you
good.
have any good stories you can tell the folks? You know, anything. You must have something deep down you can tell the folks what you know.
Well, I would. As soon as I got in, like in '97, right after that in '98, the Royal Kimchi came down on Nick Lambrose in the water district, and I guess they found out in the pumping station that he was tapping the meter.
He wasn't tapping the meter. He was kind of
Picking it up,
picking
placing
it up,
off.
I guess, or doing something with
And in
it.
essence, stealing from the city
Yes,
of Lowell.
that's what he was accused for.
So it looked like, I mean, it sounded like
But-
you and Roger were getting your nose pushed in like week after week, you know, talking about the stuff in the water district.
Yeah, but we never knew nothing about that.
Oh, that's true.
We
Okay.
never knew nothing about that. You know,
So, not only that, but let's talk about. Weren't there a few selectmen that went to jail in Dracut, like during
Yes.
Roger's era?
Gallagher?
Because Roger brought that story up to me several times.
Absolutely. And I
And-
guess Roger was on the board at that time.
Right, and
And there was a couple of
You're
them.
right.
yeah.
The Gallagher brothers, or
Yeah, they
well,
were-
the older
they-
Gallagher.
So Mr. Zimity has texted me, and he says, "Have Bill and Frank give us one good story about Roger." From Mr. Zimity. Last time Zimity texted me during the show, I got in trouble. You know,
What do
so
you mean? Everything he's ever done or said was good to me, you know, and
Yeah.
it was extraordinary. And if you needed help, he was right there to help you.
yeah.
He was a very generous man with his heart and with everything with him. There's not one particular thing because there was lots of things, you know, that I've seen him do for people.
Now I had Roger on this show a couple times,
Yep.
and it's always good to have Roger on the show
Yes.
because you really don't have to talk much.
No,
right?
you're right.
You just kind of wind him up, and you set him off, and he just goes right. And
Incredible.
he's a wealth of knowledge. He can keep talking and keep telling it like it is. And
Well, that's like after Bill Pappas passed
Passed
away,
away,
he started doing monologues.
He
He
still-
didn't have a guest on the show.
No,
did
he
it.
did it all himself. For how many years? That's been.
And, you know, I just,
Billy's been gone. Gotta say, 5 or 6 years or 7
well,
years.
I you know, because we were going to be doing this, I decided I'd go back and I'd look at his last show. And, you know, he's given like this report about like his health stuff and this and that. And it's like, you know, in my business, I've read a lot of reports, I've written a lot of reports, and he just, you know, he's just Joe Friday there, you know, like just the facts, like boom, 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 just hitting them all, you know? And, you know, like I say, just off the cuff, you know, which is, you know, a hard thing to do. I mean, we do it and it's hard here, but to just by yourself, like you say, doing a monologue, you know, for an hour, you know,
That's like
Trump
a-
can
But
do
wait
it.
a minute, you know what?
You know, but very
He
few
said-
people can.
One of the biggest things says, do your homework before you open your mouth.
Yeah.
Okay? Do your homework. Make sure you have everything straight before you start saying something. And but that's the way Roger was. He was a good guy. All around
Yeah.
good guy. I'm sorry I didn't meet him 25 years earlier.
I know.
Right? All right? That's how I was with him for a long
But
time.
getting back to the situation with the water district, it just seemed like you and Roger were bumping your nose, getting your nose pushed in week after week, and either in the by the selectmen, by the water commissioners, what have you. And then when that all came out, it seemed like you kind of were proven right, and
Yeah.
kind of like the heroes at that time back in '98. And so, like after you got arrested, and everybody was saying, I remember
No,
that.
yes,
Yeah,
were
Leo
you there?
Gaudette. I was there.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Explain to the folks why you got arrested, Bill, so they don't think that you're some kind
What-
of.
You were taping.
I
the
was
meeting.
taping a meeting, and I wasn't just taping it because I had the show. And the moderator at the time said, Mr. Moran, shut off the cameras. And I said, no. He's going, we have the press already over here, and I want you to shut. He's like, no. One more time, Mr. Moran. And the cop was, Bill, I'm going to have to take you down the station, or something like that, right? And I said, no, I'm not shutting off my camera. Then they, detained me. They didn't arrest me, but they
And you
didn't put me
became
in.
a very wealthy man because of that, didn't you, Bill?
No, I did not.
No, he dropped the case.
No, I didn't. No,
you didn't drop
no,
the
I
case.
didn't. We won the case.
Oh, okay.
And
And
I
he
w-
became a very wealthy man.
No, I did not. I ended up suing for $30,000. All right, I could have got more, or I could have lost. And we went to court, and the judge was federal court, and the judge goes, Mr. Moran, he heard my story, and he goes, I heard their story. He goes, what do you want to do? It's in your spot. What do you want to do? And it was for $3 billion or something they just threw out at that, just to get the thing going, right? This was before we went to see the judge. And he goes, how much are you willing to settle for? I don't want you to settle it. I have a problem, with the guy himself. I want him to be removed from his job. I want Mr. Gaudette to resign from the fire department, and I want the police chief to resign, which was Louis Panis at the time, because of what happened. And he goes to them, went there, talked whatever they said in there, he came back, he says, they're not agreeing to it. So it goes, all right, so what do you want to do? How much do you want? Basically, he didn't say, my lawyers are saying, talking to, and I'm talking. And he goes, what are you willing to settle on? It goes, $30,000. Once those guys are out of their jobs, and they will have 4 months or 5 months or 2 months, whatever it was, I says, to get rid of those two people in town, or I'm going to keep the $30,000. I ended up keeping the $30,000. They weren't going to budge. So that's how much I got out of it. And the lawyer took his,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
percentage. So,
That's expected.
so but that's
Was
what that's
Roger
what happened.
involved with
back-
that at all?
No, Roger was not involved with that at all.
So.
But I know, like
But that's
for
what
example,
happened then,
I
so-
notice. I
but-
can't help but notice, not so much on the Dracut Connection website, Facebook page, but the one called the Real Forum for Dracut. I know they have a detractor, Kevin Smith or Kevin something or other, that likes to mouth off about you and Zemini, saying you lose every election you've ever been in, stuff like that. But politics runs in cycles. You're a goat one day and a hero the next. And like Trump's experiencing now in the impeachment thingamajig. Fiasco, thank you.
So anyway,
Yeah.
like I said, with Roger again, he was a good guy. He wouldn't take no crap from you.
Yeah.
And he would expect the crap from you if you were right. He would, feel
Yeah.
the same way. And I think he was a fair person, a very fair person, and a great family man. For his family, it was the family.
May he
big
rest in
time.
peace.
God
He was a
bless
good
his
man.
soul. Absolutely.
Good man. So, anything else? Because we're gonna take a little bit of an intermission. We do have an 8-minute video that the folks at DATV put together about Roger. Some of his clips from his shows.
I was hoping to get more pictures too,
Yeah.
but things happened when I walked in.
Yeah.
As you know, as you should know. Yeah.
So, you guys are welcome to come back on the show anytime you want. We're going to run this video. We're going to take a 8-minute intermission. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about, George and I will talk about the Dracut election and just current events. And but it was great having you guys on, and we appreciate it.
Great.
Hearing your
Great,
stories
thank
with the folks here about Roger. He was a great man.
Yes, he was.
Definitely.
So.
Definitely. May you rest in peace.
Absolutely. God bless you, Roger.
All right, Ron, we're going to take a quick intermission with that video.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to another segment of Inside Dracut Politics. My quote of the day: just because a fight isn't easy doesn't mean it's not worth fighting. This from a lady, Sarah Palin, a gutsy woman. My quote: we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Winston Churchill. When I read that quote, I'm sure he wasn't talking about donations. It's what you give of yourself. Clarence Thomas, one of our Supreme Court justices, has said, I am unapologetically Catholic, unapologetically patriot, and unapologetically a constitutionalist. This probably because I grew up in a time that without faith in God, faith in my country, our culture, our leaders, our laws, my family, life would have been a lot more difficult than it was. My quote: one nation under God, home of the free. Why? Because of the brave. If we hadn't had brave citizens back in the late 1700s, where would we be today? But today, where are the brave? Hiding behind their excuses. Oh, I don't have the time. They're going to do what they want anyway. I'm only one vote. I won't get my picture in the paper. They might reciprocate. Oh, let's get along to get along. But with all those excuses and many others, who the hell is even willing to vote? My quote for today is one that I've probably mentioned before. Give me liberty or give me death. Patrick Henry. But you know, ladies and gentlemen, every time I read quotes attributed to many of our founders of this great nation, I can't help but make comparisons. What we had back then and what we have today as leaders of this country, of this state, and of this community. But to do so, one has to remember our history. I know that the young of today don't give a damn about our history. My quote for today: every man or woman worth their salt have to learn how to stand on their own 2 feet, since it's the only way to self-respect. When I read that, ladies and gentlemen, the only thing that came to mind is how many people today in politics can say that they have self-respect. Caving in, going along to get along, unable to do right from determine what's right or wrong. No, I'm sorry, but I just don't buy it. My quote for today: it's amazing what you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit. Harry Truman, our former President of the United States, a gutsy president.
Welcome back to the Dracut Connection, folks. That was a great little clip the folks here at DETV put together. I've got to say that Roger will truly be missed by this community.
Yeah.
You know, he was a great asset to the community and a watchdog, really looking out for everybody. So,
Yeah, no, he was a interesting guy to hang out with and talk to. But yeah, like you say, he just, you know, he's very determined, and you know, like a dog with a bone. Once he got onto something, he didn't let it go.
Right. Which, you know, Roger would like us to continue to do what we do, right?
Right.
Because somebody's got to look out for the folks, and I think that we've got to pick up a little slack and continue that legacy. You know, when I would run into people, you know, out at Hannaford, at food shopping or whatever, you know, they'd say they watched the show, but they would all watch Roger's show.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, you know, Roger was a great guy, and we're surely going to miss him. But we're going to jump into some local politics. You have the paper there in front of you.
I do. It's very
and you'll see
interesting
that
story
above
there,
the
yeah.
fold, there's it talks about the Hay scandal. And we're going to really get into this a little bit later in the show. I do want to talk about the candidates, but a lot of corruption going on in Dracut with that Hay scandal, and you know, and I'm glad that Lowell Sun had the courage to put it above the fold, because that's where it belongs, you know. And I'm sure they took a lot of heat for it too. But so let's chat about the selectmen's race. The candidates seem to be filling up pretty quick. Now, Joe Espinola had announced quite a while ago that he was running. Joe's a great candidate, I think. I know Joe from, I played football with Joe, went to school at Greater Lowell Oak with Joe. Joe and I talk quite a bit. He's not afraid to tell the good old boys that he actually has conversations with me. They may not like it, but at least Joe says, hey, we're friends and we can chat. We've got to get Joe on the show. I did have a conversation with Joe, and he said that he would come on the show. Him and I can sit down and have a conversation. We can talk about where the issues are and where he stands. Your thoughts on Joe?
Well, Joe was on the school committee for the Voc for a long time. I mean, I knew of him. I never actually met him or talked to him until he ran for state rep. Did a good job. It was a tough year for Republicans. He was also going up against a guy that had about 20 times more money to spend than he did.
Right.
He didn't get a lot of help from the state Republican Party, which is par for the course. They don't really help out candidates unless they're running for governor.
Right.
But yeah, I thought he did an okay job. He seems like a good guy. Brings a good perspective. Maybe a little different from what's there now.
Right. So our next candidate is Heather Santiago Hutchinson.
I believe so, yeah.
And she's announced her candidacy, and she's been involved with the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Bylaw Committee, and the Finance Committee. And I did also reach out to her, and she did reply that she would come on the show, and so we're going to get her on the show, and we'll chat with her, see where she stands on issues. I know that she's, I think she's involved with the younger group.
Yeah,
school age type thing. So I don't
really know her. I know she's been active with school issues and stuff like that. I guess
Right.
she has kids in school.
So the idea is to find out where she stands on certain issues
Right.
with all the candidates. We'll get them on the show. We want to know, and there's a couple bullet points that I've put out earlier, and we can chat about that. I'm concerned about the. I'll bring out those bullet points
there's a
after
few
we talk
things,
about
yeah.
the candidates.
Yeah.
But she, I think she'll have a lot of support. I think she's supported by the good old boys. But I want to see where she stands on things. Maybe she's a good fit, and it'll work out well. Our next candidate is Mark Pease, who Mark is the chairman of the planning board. Like Phil Tebow and myself, we were both chairman of planning boards, right?
Right.
So it's a good place to go, and I think Jesse Forcier was also a planning board. So you definitely get to learn about Dracut zoning issues and development issues and stuff like that, being in that position, So you gain a wealth of knowledge. And Mark and I get along fine. I've had several conversations with Mark in the past. In fact, he signed my nomination papers last year when I ran and didn't have a problem with it, right? Mark's a little bit quiet. I think that might hurt him a little bit. He kind of, he's not that outgoing, and I think he's going to have to get a little bit more involved to get himself out there more. And and I also reached out to Mark, and Mark is he mentioned he would get back to me later about coming on the show.
Right.
So there's three. Do you know Mark?
I don't know. But as you say, the planning board's a good thing. You get a lot of knowledge from that. Could transfer over if you're, as a candidate, gives you maybe a leg up on some issues, and then if you get elected, gives you a good background for it.
Right. And then recently, Allison Genest
Right.
had announced that she's running, and that's Brian Genest's
wife, yeah.
wife. Brian is
He's the chairman of the Republican Town Committee. He's also on the Republican State Committee.
right.
He's been pretty active in that now that Jim Lyons is the new head of the state committee. Brian's worked well with him. I'm optimistic going forward that it seems like the state committee's turning a lot more conservative than it's been for a long time.
Right.
Allison, she is on the Republican Town Committee, but she's a little more low key than Brian. Brian's very, very vocal, pushing his agenda, which I agree with mostly anyway. So but Allison's a little more, a little less, I don't know if partisan is the word, but she seems like, from talking to her, she seems pretty level-headed. I mean, I haven't talked to her about why she ran, but she's the one that first reported the whole Beaver Brook environmental mess when they were like clear cutting that.
Right. So she's clashed a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
with
I
the
don't
ailing
know.
farmer.
That might have got her thinking about running. I don't know.
Right. That's something. Sometimes those things.
Yeah.
That's what happens. When you see injustice taking place, and nobody's there to help you, and then you discover that if nobody's there to help you, who else are they not helping?
Right. And if
Right?
you're doing this, what else are they doing?
Correct. So that gives her an incentive to run.
Yeah.
I did reach out to her, and she agreed to come on the show. So we've got the 4 of those folks coming on. And Tammy Dristolaris is, I've chatted with her. She hasn't made a decision yet.
Right.
She's not ready to announce whether she is or she isn't going to run, right? And Alice and Hughes, we actually saw her at the, you were there, right?
Right.
So we were at Roger Daigle's wake, and Allison came over, which I've got to respect. She came over and she started chatting with us. We were standing with, I think John was with us and Phil was there. It was kind of a Dracut Connection
Right.
group. And I said to her, I says, this is almost like being on the show. And at that point, she did tell us that she laughed. She thought it was funny, right? Which is great. She's got a sense of humor. And so she mentioned that she is not running. And we invited her to come on the show during the election to chat about the election and what's going on. And she said she would. So that's nice. Now, what we don't know is, the rumor is that either myself, John Zimini, or Phil Tebow is going to run. But I don't see that happening until Tammy announces that she's not going to run.
Right.
So,
Well, she's done 2 terms, which 6 years could be a long time. There could be time for a break, but then you have the new town manager coming in, so that might be like a breath of fresh air. So yeah, I can understand why she's still on the fence.
she's
But
been-
at some point, you got to go one way or the other.
right, and she's been really fighting for the taxpayer, right?
Right.
She's very conservative about spending our dollars, and there's not a lot of that going on there, and that's one of my concerns, right? And if you saw, I put out my little my poster, so to speak, or my post of questions for the Dracut
Right.
candidates. Where do you stand on the issues? Are you for or against the May 4th ballot question to increase the Community Preservation Act tax by 25%?
Right.
If you recall that the ailing farmer proposed on town meeting floor to increase it by 25%. We're going to talk about this a little bit more because he's involved with the hay scandal.
Right.
Right? And where he's trying to get folks to spend more money on community preservation, he's benefiting from haying all these properties. And so and he sits on the committee, so it's a huge conflict. And if you're looking to raise your taxes by 25%, then that's a problem, I think, Excuse me, George. So what are your thoughts about that ballot question? How do you think these folks that are the 4 of them will sit? And will they? I don't want to hear, well, I don't know. I want to hear a yes, you're
Yeah,
in
yes
favor,
or a no.
or a no, you're not.
I mean, I want to hear you're against it, but even if you're for it, I want to know why.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Right. So, that's a huge question. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, that's,
And so my next question, are you for or against the implementing a stormwater fee? We fought the stormwater fee last year.
Right.
And it was a campaign issue. And I've heard rumblings coming out of the current selectmen that fee's coming back, right? So this election is very important. So whatever candidate you're considering, if you're, if you don't want another fee, this is important because you're going to have 2 new selectmen possibly, and you need to know whether they're going to support the fee or not support the fee. What I do know is I was listening to the WCRAP, that radio station, and Mark Pease was on that, right? So I was listening to his conversation, and I like Mark. But if we don't agree on certain issues, that's something we can chat about. I'm not beating him up. We don't agree on the issue where, they started talking about the stormwater fee, and he said that it's coming back, but he was talking about it in a positive light, that it's definitely coming back, we got to do this and all that.
Right.
And then after intermission, he came out and said, well, he must have got his talking points, right? And he came out and said, well, I'm 95% against it. But that's leaving the door open.
Exactly.
That's leaving the door open.
Well,
And
that
plus,
that was the question we had last year, that, okay, they didn't do it this year, but it sure seemed like they were setting it up for next year or the year after,
Right.
which would be this year.
So if you're a voter out there and you're concerned about your taxes and everything goes up and up and up and up, if they're going to put a fee in, you have no control over that. So
Right.
depending on who you vote for is very important, right? And then bouncing back to Mark Pease on the community preservation, he was in favor of increasing that 25%. He said that. So he's in favor of increasing the 25%, and he's not totally against the stormwater fees, 95% against it, which that leaves the door open. I don't know how the other candidates, are they for or against the, the ballot question? Is Allison for or against it? Is she for or against the stormwater fee? Heather, I don't know that. We need to know that. And, Joe Espinola also. Now, my third question is, are you for or against a future trash fee? Because the trash fee has been floating around for a long time.
For a long time. But,
Right.
yeah, 10 years or
Yeah,
so.
and we keep fighting it, and we got to continue to fight it. So I don't know anybody's answer on that question there.
Well, that's also probably going to become an even bigger issue because, I don't know if you've been following this whole thing about, like, the recycling and the trash costs have gone up significantly the last couple of years. So, again, it was quiet there for a few years. It went away because the town budget kind of stabilized. But as I say, now that the costs are rising on all three of the, on the stormwater and on the trash, that's two fees right there. And then you go with the CPA tax. Now all of a sudden, you're looking at a triple whammy.
Right. So again, I want the folks at home to know that I am against the increase of 25% in the CPC tax. I think, we've done enough with it now, and it's at 2%. That was a manipulative move at the last town meeting
Right.
by a guy who benefits financially from the increase, right? And
Well, also, about 10 years back, there was talk about reducing it.
Right.
And at the time, he seemed to be in favor of reducing it. Now he wants to raise it.
Right.
Part of the reason is right after they started talking about reducing it, they went on a spending binge because there was a big pile of money there. They started spending, like every year, if you go to town meeting, there's 3 or 4 CPA things now.
Right.
So now, that fund's depleted significantly.
And this particular farmer is benefiting from haying these properties. And we're going to get into that a little bit later. We're going to talk about the hay scandal, right? So I'm against implementing a stormwater fee. I'm against a future trash fee. I'm against a 25% increase in the CPC tax. I want to know where the rest of the candidates stand. And if Mr. Zimini or Mr. Tebow or Mr. Estelaris decides they're in the race, then I want to know from them as well, right? It's just not the other
Right.
people. Now, here's something that I've had conversations with Phil Tebow about, and he actually brought it to my attention. He said, are you for or against setting the property tax levy ceiling to 1.5% of the full cash value of all property in town for the next 3 years? Typically, they just go with a 2.5% automatically, but they don't have to, right? Why not give the taxpayers a break and only go 1.5% instead of the 2.5% and set that for 3 years? I'd like to see where the candidates stand on that. I'd be willing to support that. What about you?
3 years, how about commit to do it for 1 anyway? Let's see how 1 goes, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, it'd be interesting to try it once and see what happens.
Here's my thought. Why I threw the 3 years in?
That's their term.
Correct.
Right.
Right. It's their term, but it's also, the economy's been growing great.
Right.
And you know what happens every 10 years, right? There's always that big fall.
Right.
And I can see that coming, and it's going to happen within the next few years.
Right, and as the money comes in and you spend to the budget, then that becomes your base. So then when your revenues go down, then it's like, oh my God, we got to raise taxes again. We need an override or something. So yeah. When the economy's going good, you want to get those union contracts settled, and you want to fix the roofs on the schools and this and that. But you want to keep that baseline as low as you can.
Yeah,
You want to build stuff that needs to be fixed. You build a new fire station now, things like that. But yeah, you want to keep your fixed costs as it is as low as you can.
Right. So just to go, we got John McDonough watching the show. He says, with the city of Lowell manager getting $250,000, we got Wendy Shimmer. Do you know what the DHA has at their meetings? John McDonough wants to know if Tammy's running. What are we gonna pay your incoming manager? That's a big
Right.
discussion, right? So those are things that are on the table.
I actually have another issue that I want to bring up is, at the last town meeting, we've given away 3 of the pot store licenses. There's 1 left.
Yep.
The last town meeting, they wanted to do a zoning change to put one in down on Broadway Road, like right on the Methuen line. I tried to bring an amendment then. I might try to do a warrant for this coming one. I think the best place to put one would be on Bridge Street, right up on the New Hampshire border.
Right.
But that would take a zoning change.
So speaking of the pot shops and the marijuana and all that, so the planning board last night just voted down an applicant who was over at the the Pleasant Street Lakeview intersection there.
Yeah.
That little auto mechanics place. He's going
Right.
to convert that into some type of a.
Yeah, there was supposed to be 2 over there. There's one
Well,
there.
they voted it down because they said it wasn't right for the neighborhood. But through the whole planning of all this stuff, that area was targeted for.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually over in my neighborhood anyway, so I think it would be a good fit. I mean, there's already one there. There's already one license set to go there. They were going to put a second one there. I think those are good locations because, first off, it's basically in Lowell. It's right on the line. It's right by UMass Lowell. So I would think that those are 2 good locations to put it in. That's why I want to go on Bridge Street because, again, it's right on the border of the town with New Hampshire.
Right.
We
We got to save a little bit of time, George.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we got to talk about this this above the fold, folks. Resident says nay to hay harvest.
And actually it goes to the back page, and you have half of the back page with a nice little picture. So it's a pretty good article, actually.
So you read the article.
I did.
What's your take?
Well, it seemed, first off, they do go to the farmer for a quote. He seems a little put out by this whole thing.
Like, how dare they?
Yeah. But, I mean, this was obviously done wrong. So I guess the question is, was it done wrong through, bad intent or because they just made a mistake?
Well,
I mean, it's
the farmer who did this, right? The ailing farmer
who sits on the board.
who sits on the board of Beaverbrook Farm,
Yeah.
who's actually the guy who wants to increase your tax by 25%. He's profiting from this, and this gentleman, if you want to call him that, has been involved with politics all his life, so he knows
should
the
have
rules.
known better.
I think he knows the rules.
I mean, somebody else on the board probably should have said something too. Like I say, I mean, I've sat on boards, you've sat on boards. There's usually bidding things anyway, but when you're talking about another board member getting what's a benefit from.
Right. And so we did the research. I once I seen this going on, I did the research and we looked at, you can get 100 bales of hay out of an acre of land. And I Googled this, so they said the average bale is $15. And if you get 4 cuts a year, that turns into a $90,000 value. Tell me that I'm 50% wrong it's
And
still
you're still 50 grand,
$45,000, right?
Right.
And if I'm 75% wrong, it's still 22.5, right? For something that's costing him $3,000, and here he's coming to the taxpayers to say that he wants to increase to 25%, the CPC tax, right? And he said, well, I'm the only guy who farms these lands. Well, nobody dares challenge Al Capone, right? Nobody's
Well, and
gonna.
also, I mean, how publicized are these things? Obviously, they're now doing the website for the procurement and all this stuff. But how many people read those little classified ads?
Who's
in the
going to
back of
dare
the
bid
paper?
against him? Nobody would bid against him. Am I going to bid against Al Capone? I don't think so. The repercussions, right? No way. That's just not going to happen. And so he said, well, if you don't cut the grass, he was on the radio today. In fact, I'm going to be calling in on Monday to WCAP, Teddy Pano's show, because Warren was on there today chatting about, how bad we are and all that. But, he's playing the victim. The farmer's playing the victim. And he got caught with his fingers in the cookie jar. And from what I understand, it's not over, So we'll let the process play out, and then we'll see how it goes. You know what I'm saying? But he was complaining that, well, if I didn't cut the grass, then it would be ruined. What's wrong with just leaving it open space? Right?
Yeah.
It didn't have to be hayed. Wait till you properly go through the proper procedures of procurement, and the hay will be there next year, right? It's like when you go mountain climbing. If you don't make it to the top, you turn around and go back. You know why? Because the mountain will be there next year. Another day. The hay will be there another day. You'll be able to hay that field another day, right? I just think it's that I deserve it attitude, and the farmer, he has the town pay for his insurance. Weren't there a bunch of subsidies that
I
he-
looked up a little. I don't know too much about what the state is available, but I did see that the solar panels down on the farm in 2017, the state gave the dairy farm a grant of $30,000 for the solar panels. I looked at there's a website online, Environmental Working Group. They do a lot of stuff on environmental issues. So they have a thing online about USDA subsidies. So basically, one department in the federal government. And from, this goes back to like 1995. So from 1995 to 2019, Shaw Farm Dairy has gotten $170,833 in different subsidies from the USDA. And I looked in the last 5 years, it's $33,288.
it almost gets a better deal than Shifty Shift. Health insurance for life, all these subsidies. We're buying, we're increasing the tax, 25%. Hey, I hate to say this,
Yes,
but
I still don't think that compares to a
Guess-
congressional pension. But
guess what?
Oh, gotta go. Thanks for watching and stay connected.